Welcome back to the Real Estate 401k show. I'm your host, Mike Weinstein, alongside Ryan Gerdes, and Justin Frederick is back from how was Wisconsin, man?
I never
We
felt
made fun of you last week, dude.
I was making fun of myself. I mean, I was telling the corporate office, I was like, there's a majority of us in Maricopa County. Why aren't you guys coming out to Maricopa County? We could be out in shorts and t-shirts on a patio somewhere,
Dolphin.
And instead, I'd never been in weather like this before, but it was -12 when I landed.
Oh my God.
The winds were blowing 22 miles an hour. And I'm like, okay, I wonder how this is going to feel to walk out these doors. So I get like, even with the doors, and I'm like, oh, this isn't so bad. I take 2 steps out, and it like sucked the breath out of me. And I just turned right back around and walked inside. And there's this Wisconsin guy with shorts and a polo shirt on. He's laughing at me. I'm all bundled
You
up.
look like an Eskimo.
Yeah. And
Did you do that thing where like you take a cup of water and throw it in the air and it freezes
should've tried that.
before it hits the ground?
I should have absolutely tried that. It snowed all day Wednesday. I tried to get back here on Wednesday night. We got delayed because 2 of the pilots couldn't get to the airport. And
It's that they couldn't or they didn't want to.
maybe
I'll go on door number 2.
Yeah.
All right, well, anyways, you're going to want to text the word open to 623 AZ RECON. That's open to 623 AZ RECON. Speaking of shorts and a polo shirt, this is one of the greatest weeks of the entire year to be a Phoenician. It is time for the Waste Management Open, kicking off on Wednesday. And with that, Ryan, besides the fact that we just love going to the Open, and we'll be there on Friday and Saturday doing our thing, and would love to connect. If anyone's listening to the podcast and wants to connect with us, again, text the word open to 623 AZ RECON.
We'll be at the 18th on Friday and the 16th on Saturday, right?
Something like that.
Yeah. I might have got it mixed
It
up.
doesn't matter.
Yeah.
And my wife's like, she goes, don't you have PTSD from last year because we got caught up in that throng? I go, no. I'm just not listening to you and arriving at noon. You're not invited.
Yeah, no, we're getting there at like 8, 9.
Yeah.
avoid all that.
Yeah.
But anyways, obviously at this time of year, it's all about the snowbirds. If you listen to this podcast, we love our snowbird friends.
If you're sick and tired of dealing with the weather like Justin had to deal with in
Oh, my
Wisconsin.
God. But also with that, brings a lot of people to the Phoenix Open. They come out here from places like Wisconsin or the New England states, and they come out here and go, man, this is living. Well, there are opportunities because a lot of people go, oh, yeah, man, I would love to live here. I'm not necessarily going to uproot everything because I've spent a long weekend in Phoenix, but this area provides a tremendous amount of investment opportunities.
And we're going to see a lot longer season for snowbirds, not because it's going to be colder longer, but we're also seeing a lot of competition moving in from California and the state and the fires that we've had in that state, which we've talked about last week. And so they're not moving here for investment opportunities for the most part. They're moving here because their homes burnt down and they're trying to relocate. So expect a little bit more competition. I would say getting your feet on the ground faster. If you have ambitions of investing in the market here in Arizona, get your feet on the ground faster and start identifying properties sooner rather than later, because you're going to find that it's going to get too late pretty darn quick.
And then with that, and why we want everybody to text open to 623 AZ RECON, so at the very least you can get our information, because the temptation, Ryan, is you come to town, you're not as familiar with the area, you're driving around, you're like, hey, this is kind of interesting. Hey, here's a sign, and here's just some random agent's phone number on there, or I see a flyer, or whatever the case is. There are dangers especially if you're focusing on possibly investing or a second home, not working with someone or not working with a group that this is what they specialize in like we do.
Yeah. And there's also a lot of places that are more conducive to either the snowbirds or to, investment type of neighborhoods, if you will. I'm not trying to redline anything here, but, if you have certain expectations out of it, there's going to be some HOAs and some CCNRs that are going to allow you or unallow you to do some things. Case in point, we constantly recommend that if you have a second home and you're trying to make it financially work out, or if you just have an entrepreneurial attitude, then using it as a VRBO or Airbnb while you're not using it, it's important to understand what areas you can and cannot operate a short-term or even a mid-term rental. So we'll definitely be able to help you kind of identify the areas, or maybe you just want to be close to a golf course, or maybe you want to be close to family that you have here, or whatever. It's definitely important that you know what you can and cannot do.
And that's a great point. I would also like to highlight, though, Ryan, of all the cities in Arizona, and especially in the Phoenix metropolitan area, I would say the city of Scottsdale are the hypersensitive group when it comes down to your Airbnbs and your VRBOs. And so, not to say that you shouldn't, not to say that it's a bad investment. You really got to know what you're doing. You got to be really selective in the neighborhoods.
And we're also seeing quite a bit of appetite for multifamily. So that you can kill a lot of birds with one stone when you're going after duplexes or triplexes, fourplexes. The magic number is 4. So once you go over 4, then you start having different type of financial strategies and different type of expectations on what you can and cannot do with it.
All right, Justin. So I'm here from Wisconsin, or from some place where the weather just outright sucks.
Yeah.
And I'm enjoying this, and I'm like driving around.
How can you not?
Yeah. If you don't enjoy it, then we may not want you. Right. But I'm driving around. I'm seeing some properties, and this looks really interesting. What should be going through my head when it comes down to financing and obtaining a mortgage, whether I'm thinking about completely just relocating here and bringing my family out here because I've been thinking about it for years, or I'm thinking about this would be a great second home. And then what's the difference between a second home and saying, hey, I just want to buy an investment property?
Yeah. I mean, as far as the interest rates go between a second home and investment property, there's really not much difference. In the consumer's eyes, you're really not going to see a difference, but on the lending side, it's about a 0.5 point difference, depending on the down payment. As far as what's going through your head, I just really recommend starting with doing an application, just so we can give you educational purposes on what does this look like? What am I looking for on a down payment? What am I looking at for a monthly payment, depending on what the purchase price is that you're qualifying for or what you want to go after? But we can give you all that information. We can actually go through it hypothetically to be upfront, just so you can kind of get a good idea. But second home, 10% down. Investment property, you can go as low as 15% down, but I'd highly recommend 20 at minimum. There's a lot of different products that can help you get into these homes. If you are going to do something like a Airbnb that will allow you to still occupy the home a certain amount of days out of the year, but also give you income that we can use to produce to kind of eliminate that liability that we're getting to help you qualify. But there's multiple avenues that we can go after, and you'll see it for yourself when you're out. You're seeing it right now.
Yeah.
This weather is gorgeous. People want to be out here. We're all into the Airbnb, VRBO kind of thing, and the numbers work out well in a lot of cases. But just like you guys said, it's important to know those pockets. But the financing side of things, just getting an application in is nice to actually get specific numbers on what you're looking at.
Now, we're encouraging our listeners, if they want to do it right and they want to work with a team on the real estate side and the lending side that understands investment strategies, we're encouraging them to text the word OPEN to 623-AZ-RECON. That's OPEN to 623-AZ-RECON. And encouraging to hit us up while we're at the open. There's going to be a difference, though, between having a conversation with us at 10 o'clock in the morning as opposed to 2:30 in the afternoon. So you want to get with us really early, right?
Yeah.
I happen to think we're more fun at 4 o'clock in the afternoon.
It depends on your taste.
Yeah.
It's up to you. But yeah, I mean, you're still going to get accurate information. It's just going to be
Really?
Yeah, I think so.
Accurate.
It's just going to be emotionally different. You get the tired us or the
Tired. Yeah, that's the
Yeah,
word.
yeah.
Tired. Yeah, we're
At 10 o'clock,
tired.
you're going to get the investment strategies. At 4 o'clock, you're going to get the shit show strategies. Where
yeah.
also, Ryan, I want to, even for both of you, I think, though, the major warning is it sounds like a great idea when you come out here, you're staying at an Airbnb, and I want to get one of these and so forth. Your numbers are going to be different than your host numbers when it comes down to real estate acquisitions. The short-term rental market has changed, and I'm not saying it's a good idea or it's a bad idea, but it really it absolutely comes down to the numbers. So the worst thing you can do is just buy anything because it will rent out on the Airbnb market, and it looks great, and you get all excited. But if you buy wrong, and you get the wrong loan program, and do not get an ideal area, it could be a bloodbath.
Well, and I think that a lot of people are using, different tools like AirDNA and Rabu and whatnot. What a lot of times people aren't taking into account is a ramp-up period, because those are usually going to give you numbers of Airbnbs or other rentals that have already been established and are already a proven asset, right? Whereas if you're getting one built from the ground up or starting one from the ground up, then you're not going to have bookings right away. You're not going to have 100 reviews right away. You're not going to have that type of foundation in order to get those types of numbers. So I always encourage people to walk into it with their with a very conservative approach on it, especially for the first 18 months. You might be able to accomplish those numbers within the first 6 months, but let's just be realistic is all I would encourage you to be.
What I like to do to start up my Airbnb is I like to do the first 10 bookings at an extremely low cost, just to get those bookings and get those reviews, because the reviews are really what's going to pump the activity. I just throwing that out there, just something for you to think about too. It's you gotta plan on having definitely a few slow months to start with, even if you bought in prime season, because they're not pumping your listing first. You got to get those you got to get those reviews in. That's what it's all about.
And then if you take that strategy, which I agree with that strategy, take a look at the time for acquisition, time for just getting the Airbnb ready. Then you got your ramp up period. Now you're in summer. And summer traditionally is slow. You got better. You're going to do better and have better numbers if you got a pool. So you may not be really looking at maximizing this Airbnb property until fall.
And the reality is when you start moving into those slow seasons, being able to pivot into a midterm, we've seen a lot of success with that. So midterms are anyone that's renting a month or longer is usually how we define it. And then there's a lot of different opportunities, either with people that have insurance claims or people that are moving out here for corporate purposes. They have a 3-month contract, and they'll typically be looking at your properties as well. But the fact of the matter is, you need to have it furnished, and you need to be able to market on multiple platforms, because it's not just going to be Airbnb or just VRBO. We also see a lot of traction from Zillow for those midterm rentals. We've seen a lot of results from that. So just working with the right people and understanding all the different options and resources that you have available to you.
Well, and I think that's really the point of it all. It's dealing with the right people. If you're just looking for a couple dudes to have some drinks with at the Phoenix Open, we're the right dudes for that. We are the right people. We are the people. We wrote the book on that, right? And in addition, when it really just comes down to real estate acquisition out here, obviously anyone with a active real estate license can help you with the acquisition, but it's really the post strategies and setting up whatever type of property you buy and setting it up for success. That's what we specialize in as real estate wealth managers, and we'd love to have that conversation with you. All you got to do is text the word open to 623 AZ RECON. That's open to 623 AZ RECON.